Welcome to On the Chain. This is Chip. That's my co-host Jeff, and tonight we have a phenomenal guest with us tonight. We have Catherine Coley, CEO of Binance. Catherine, thank you for joining the roundtable.
I'm so excited to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
So here we go.
Awesome to see you.
It's good to see you, and here we go. Let's do this.
And now, the roundtable with Jeff and Chip on the chain.
And we're back. We are back. I have to say the open, we've been somewhat criticized at times that actually the crypto twins. Are you still there, Catherine? You're there.
I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah. People have said we have the longest open in the history of shows, which is fine. That's okay.
I think you hit on all the topics. I was like, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. So I think you guys cover a lot, which is really awesome.
Yeah, we will dive in, but I wanted to start off with a primer. First off, I think for everybody here tonight, I want a big shout out to everybody. Guys, we'll get to your questions in a little bit. We'll go through some things with Catherine, and then we'll go ahead and take some questions from the chat. So I wanted to ask you, how did you actually get from let's kind of rewind a little bit. How did you actually end up at Binance, then going back to Ripple? What was your first experience getting into blockchain? When did you hear about it?
Yeah, I heard about it from being an FX trader. So I was already focused on the world's currencies, specifically not the popular ones. So G10 covering kind of the major countries. I was fascinated about the smaller ones, the more emerging markets. So emerging markets for us was Malaysia, Indonesia, Korea, and those elements. And the other side of it is Bitcoin or other emerging currencies that were coming into the space. So that's really how I heard about it, and had to leave FX full time in order to start thinking about crypto. So for me, it was a 2 feet full plunge into working at Ripple was my first step into crypto. I didn't kind of dabble on the side beforehand. I just kind of had to leave one world behind to take on a new.
That must have been exciting. I mean, to go into a completely new asset class like that, from the legacy.
Yeah, from the legacy world, it was like I had read the last chapter of the book, and now someone was like, "Here, try reading this book," and I'm like, "I know what happens. I know what happens. We're gonna get this. We're gonna get this. We're gonna get this." And so it's been really awesome to see those steps evolve. For one, being like electronic trading being a key component to the market evolving from voice brokering. So being able to zip through that cycle, where in FX it took them about 15 years to get kind of an electronic marketplace where you could buy, and in crypto it's taken us most places less than 18 months in order to get really evolved. So that's what's the exciting thing, is kind of being able to see one industry that took a long time to get mature, and now we're hyper speeding it up in crypto.
So out of curiosity, what's it like that first day? What's the onboarding process like at Ripple? I mean, everybody has a different onboarding process. Did you join out were you in California? Were you out in San Francisco?
Yeah, I moved from London, where I was at Morgan Stanley, to San Francisco, was working at Silicon Valley Bank, covering a lot of startups, a lot of fintechs. It was funny, at that time, money service businesses, which is what BinanceUS ended up being, are really difficult to work with banks. So we were handling all these fintech companies that were like, "Oh, are they a money service business? Okay, we can't cover them." And I was like, "These companies sound really cool." And Ripple was one of the ones that kind of perked up, and you're like, maybe I'll look into that company. So my first day working at Ripple, quite a whirlwind. I was joining the finance team there, and this was the box that they thought I would be working in, and this is the box that I ended up working in. So being able to go in kind of thinking I was head of investor relations for them, which is kind of more of a traditional role you have, introducing the financial community, equity analysts, different banking kind of relationships to the company, and then kind of pivoting that and end up becoming their head of institutional liquidity, focused purely on XRP. So I was kind of able to do both of the strengths that I have from my old career, and bring them into this new one, which was really exciting.
So you basically lived and breathed XRP pretty much 24/7 for that 2 year period, more or less.
Guys, I still have like my Triskelion here,
all right, nice.
I used to have those in my ears, like earrings that were Triskelions, and I don't think I took them off for 2 years.
That's nice. So
it's pretty fun. But when I become dedicated to a team and a project, I'm all in.
That's nice. It's amazing. You go from Ripple, which is a kind of a game-changing platform, to Binance, another huge, mega, kind of global game-changing platform.
Yeah, I like to be riding the wave that's going to make the most impact, and I certainly want to be in front of it, not behind it. So that's kind of where I leapt early into certain aspects of business that I think are going to be important game changers down the road, and want to be helping define them. And that's really where focusing on infrastructure, how we were going to be able to access these tokens, was something that was super important to me, and why I thought BinanceUS really needed to come to America and take on giving more access to people in an easier way.
Yeah, and one of those things was interesting. I remember, having an account on Binance and then getting that news and having my throat sink was like,
oh my God.
I was like, wait a minute, there's not going to be any more Binance. What's happening? And then they announced very quickly that BinanceUS was spinning up. And then the next thing I know, like, this thing launched like unbelievably fast. What was that like? Because that must have been a whirlwind.
We launched BinanceUS in 3 months from a piece of paper that said, like, I think the top of the menu should say this, to like a full-fledged website that could actually, handle order books and transact volume. And I mean, when we first started last September, it was 7 tokens, just web, really like walking into the gladiator arena with the most like disappointing thing I could give to the world, when they were expecting something brilliant. And it was like, just wait, this is only the beginning. Please hold with us. And for you Floridians, you guys have really held on. It's been almost 11 months. And we finally got it so that we could launch. And here you are, getting access to 45 tokens, 35 of which are able to do recurring buys. We've got an app, we've got APIs, we've got an OTC desk. Like, we've been able to build and get us back up to the level that we wanted to serve people. But man, I remember my September 24th. I'll always remember it being like pushing the go button and then watching it being like, God, I hope people aren't as disappointed as I am, because going from Binance's access of 200 plus coins to something like 7 coins and only a web, you're under delivering for people. And then that's really a tough point in this industry. But the good part about it is we can catch up pretty quickly.
And it's difficult, right? In the US, I mean, the fact that you're facing additional regulation that, you probably didn't have to worry about before that.
Exactly. I mean, we go through a strict digital asset risk assessment framework, focusing on all components, so not only the security of the protocol, but the understanding, and that's the security as in the IT security. Then we have to understand if it is a security and make sure it's not. And then from a Howey law example, and then from the Howey test, and then the components of it being available in the US. Like, is there a US community? Is there US demand? Are there going to be developments that will benefit and aid Americans? And that's something that we're really kind of making sure that as we're building out, we're providing at least access for Americans to be able to access projects outside of the US, and then at the same time be able to support and build up ones that have been homegrown, built here in the US. So it's really exciting. We just launched a couple of new ones, Helium and one, Harmony One. And both of those didn't really have they didn't have dollar access until we were able to launch them. So we're pretty excited to be able to be that kind of first venue for people to come on and be able to engage in different projects. So
that is pretty exciting. So a couple other things. So we put out a tweet. We were asking for questions, people that wanted to kind of engage with that. And an overwhelming one that kind of came was, will Binance, this whole the idea of having a Spark token, which is Flare.networks, and there's only one exchange on board right now. Do you think BinanceUS will get on board with being able to do the exchange with the token, the Spark token?
Yeah, so I've still got to learn a lot about it. It's great. The XRP Army is like the first news I hear from people about, like, I need this, and like everyone else is doing this. Why aren't you doing it? And I'm like, cool, I know nothing about it. And then I ask for more information on it, and it's like outsourcing my research, which is great. So we're still in the process of reviewing what exactly Flare Network is going to be providing, what it is the Spark token is going to be needing. I mean, for the most part, if you're able to self-custody it, then you could be able to store it. And one of the interesting things about our, the resources that we have is we're kind of still focused on where we're going to be able to benefit from more of our customers. So if it's purely those XRP holders that are going to benefit from this, they're a great community, but we got to make sure that there's longevity to it. The other asterisk is airdrops aren't necessarily that available in the United States. So it's another one of those regulation, red flag alerts that we have to focus on and make sure that from a legal standpoint, we're not going to be putting the platform or our users in any jeopardy.
And that's really great to hear, because as you guys are coming into the market, I really appreciated your slow approach, because we know there's certain states that are more difficult, Florida, New York, Texas, amongst others. But even hearing, what you're saying from the legal perspective, trying to figure it out, not putting the user in potential jeopardy, and making sure that you're taking the right steps, really, again, to protect the user from that perspective with the airdrops. I mean, that's something I didn't really think about until you brought up. I mean, it's somewhere obviously in the back of my mind, but I mean, that's a great point. Airdrops aren't that normal to be acceptable here, right?
They become a taxable event for you, which makes things really difficult when you all of a sudden get small amounts of tokens, or for those XRP holders out there, a large amount of tokens, and you have to kind of think about those from a tax perspective. So that's, unfortunately, the US and the tax situation around digital assets is one that puts a lot of users in a stressful position. And we want to make sure that we're having the right view set on it before we just release it out to the community.
It's always fun when we talk about taxes. Taxes, we're like, what taxes? Wait a minute. Yeah, I mean, it is the Wild West, but we still have to be responsible. And the funny thing is, I actually saw Flare put something out. I was actually looking for the tweet, but they said, because people keep hammering them, hey, what's the value going to be about? They're like, we're not going to comment on any values at this moment in time. We don't even know when they're going to actually do the snapshot. But I was curious too. So something else, another nice development that I saw was the launching of CryptoSafe Alliance and the CryptoSafe platform. Could you elaborate a little bit about that and what that's geared up to do?
Yeah, this is an initiative that CZ and Binance Global, or Binance.com, has really been pushing forward, and certainly something that I think is just in general, when we're building this infrastructure, we need to be building it in a forward sense. And one of the things that CryptoSafe is that is leaning forward, being able to share kind of the industry knowledge across exchanges, so that if someone is a bad actor on one platform, they don't go and continue to take down other platforms or exchanges. Because oftentimes people forget, but fraudsters are a lot like whack-a-mole, where if we catch them in one place, they're going to go to the next place and the next place and the next place. So where we can be alerting people in advance, or being able to protect and safeguard other institutional players, it's really going to be a kind of a more helpful space for us to catch them quickly, instead of having it be kind of this, one player fixes it and thinks they're all safe, and then the rest of the industry is still plagued by it. So the CryptoSafe is headed in that right direction.
That's an important initiative, because when you're taking the time, because you really want to protect users, right? You really want to protect the community, and we know, like someone reported, actually Rain, who's in the chat right now, said that there was a Binance ad playing, and as much as we've all complained to YouTube, at one time or another, those seem to be pervasive. And it's like, I've warned people, Jeff's warned people, back and forth. And one of the neat things about what's happening in the XRP community, XRP Forensics, they came out with an API to basically track all of these. And what they're trying to do is get some buy-in from some of the exchanges to be able to take in this API and basically let users know, like maybe a warning if you're going to transfer funds out. So it's kind of nice that that's happening. They're actually having an API, because they keep putting out stats of how many people have lost an exorbitant amount of XRP. It's just sad. And it's like, one of the things that I like about when you talk about protecting people, and I think why the exchanges are so important for the for the Flare token Spark distribution is because, look, this is complicated. Cold storage isn't for the faint at heart. It's like my heart beats anytime I move it from an exchange to that thing. I'm like, where is it? 3 seconds, I don't see it, right? I mean, you probably had those moments yourself, right? I mean, you know what you're supposed to do.
Oh, we all have pit stains. I mean, it's a stressful industry, folks, and we know that. And I think that's one of our big mottos is, educate people, don't intimidate them. If we tell them how difficult it is to have cold storage, how intimidating it is to have, Chip with the rant. No, I like it.
I meant to put that one up. Sorry.
But it's those moments where we actually do need to let people know you're not dealing with, crypto isn't letting people access puppies. It's letting people access dynamite. Like, this is stuff we have to take very good care of, or it could be extremely explosive or punish the user. And so it's kind of very important that people take it with that level of seriousness when they're involving it. Yes, it feels like internet play money, but it's money. It's real.
Right.
It has the values that you put to it. So I think it's really important that people know exactly what they want to be doing when they're getting into this space.
Jeff, what do you think about that? Puppies and dynamite. That's a good analogy that I think we might have to steal for something.
We're going to figure out how to we're going to weave that in somehow. Right?
Any of my metaphors, you can take their bonkers. But I think about how, white papers write up things. And then I think about how humans think about things. And oftentimes they need more visuals than crypto gives them.
Right, and just the white paper as you try to read through it. And I know Chip and I have talked about a good example is the Flare, coming out and trying to read through that white paper, and it's not for the faint of heart, to try to.
A lot of these read like cardboard. Right? Yeah, it's I give a lot of credit to those in kind of the 2017, 2018 hype that we're reading, thousands of white papers a day. At that rate, my eyeballs would have shattered. So it's really important that we understand kind of the purpose of what we're building, the teams behind them, the intentions and the utility. And that really, it's got to resonate, and it's got to resonate with a lot of people in order to be a successful project. So I think that's kind of the skinny of it.
That's awesome. Hey, I just wanted to just a quick shout out. I posted up there to Crypto Nation News. We do appreciate your support on the channel, and thank you very much for that tax bill. We do appreciate it. But so it's interesting, as you're dabbling into this space, growing, building with Binance. It's interesting because you're stepping into a big market, right? Where you have Coinbase relatively solidified here. And then you've got Uphold relatively solidified here. But I think Binance was already making a pretty big play in the US market, but maybe it didn't have as big of a footprint in the US as those two. But now coming full on with how do you see that the competition, your competitive edge? Obviously, there's a lot of space yet in the marketplace, but I'd love to hear your feedback on that.
Yeah, believe me, plenty of people call me crazy for jumping into a highly saturated market 8 years later into the game than everybody else, into the most regulated market in crypto and the one that was growing at the slowest rate. Those are not things where you're like, sign me up, unless you're Catherine Coley and you're like, I think we can take this. And so my team's been from day one dedicated purely to America, to make it easier for access in America, which I think is nice for us to have our blinders on. We don't have to worry about the rest of the world. We don't have to worry about, the excitement that's going on in Venezuela or, where else crypto is growing, because there's a global partner of ours that's doing it really well. And so it's nice for us to just keep our focus and grow from a state perspective, one by one, really listening to our users and understanding where the pain points are as an American in this space. And they come from both a natural state. I hated paying fees on exchanges to buy more XRP. I hated, and I was like, the transaction fees are so low. Why would I pay 1% away on an exchange? That's like literally doesn't make sense. So being able to deliver to that to users that have those pain points, or the inability to get access quickly into tokens when they become popular across the world, I wanted them to be able to buy them with dollars. And so that's really where we became an easy fiat on-ramp. I also wanted something that would automate it and do it for me, so I didn't have to wake up every morning and go like, where am I going to be buying Bitcoin? Shucks, I think I've missed it. I'm not going to dollar cost average into this. No, I get to set it, forget it, And it's just, continuing to invest for me along the way. So that's kind of our real focus. And my team comes from all across the fintech plus, remittance world. We've got Western Union, Robinhood, EY Blockchain, specifically SoFi, a big group of folks from Shapeshift. Shout out to my customer support team that does an awesome job. They're located all across the US. So everywhere our users are, that's where our team is based, which is really something quite spectacular when we're looking at how we can grow crypto in America. We're taking perspectives from all across America. It's not just a Silicon Valley focused business, because there's more outside than just that portion of a focus on crypto. So I love hearing it. We've got a group, folks from Maine and Michigan, that are giving us insights into how their communities are growing. And it's fascinating because that community is growing entirely different from our Colorado group that is all about like conferences and community gatherings and kind of more in-person experiences. Whereas our other folks are growing it from more of a digital perspective, Discord and Telegram and Twitter, and enjoying it from that. So that's really where we come and where our space is. We're here to deliver, the best that America needs for digital assets, and we're not going anywhere. We're going.
That's good news. Well,
yeah,
Jeff,
we like stability.
Well, Jeff and I want to thank you for bringing it to Florida. Now, we have 3 Floridians talking here tonight. You are originally from Florida. Maybe some people don't know that.
That's correct. Right outside Orlando. So I was
nice.
Coming into the state now that we've launched, it's bringing back all my childhood memories of how awesome Florida was. And I was like, oh my God, we had Gatorland, we had Disney World, we had, the Everglades. And I was like, Florida's got a lot going on for it. So
hurricanes.
Hurricanes.
We love the hurricanes.
It prepared me for everything.
Hurricanes are great.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. If the power goes out, my team in San Francisco is always like, "Oh no, what do we do?" And I'm like, "I got candles, I got water, I got I got my hurricane kit ready to go."
You're all set.
So no, it's an awesome place though.
Yeah, another big question that keeps coming up, and I know maybe you can answer this, you can't, but I mean, even James Malpass in the chat said, now we're starting when Georgia. We also had a lot of people when Texas, right? And then of course, everybody, I think New York is probably, I don't know, out of those 12 left, they may be somewhere.
So when Florida was the #1 asked question, followed by when.
That's right. You better believe it.
Yeah, followed by when Connecticut, but that was done by one person.
Oh, really?
They've asked every single day since September 24th. So shout out to my one Connecticut
dedication.
So dedicated. So dedicated, we had to create a web page just for people asking when their state. So do sign up.
Just for that person.
Yeah, do sign up for the site for when it got some of the Floridians early access into when Florida, so they could have their referral links ready to go when the rest of the state opened up. So be sure to sign up on our when page. I'll share it after this or something with the link. But it's a state-by-state process, which people underestimate how difficult that is. They also, all of these states have had to go work from home when government bank regulation jobs were not necessarily the easiest ones to say, like, oh, hit me up on Zoom or take your laptop home. We're talking, they had the full desktops, how are they transitioning to a work from home environment? And that was probably really distracting for them. So our hope is regulators. So really, really wishing them well to get our applications and stamp approved.
Yeah, talking about banks, I think out of all the different people that we've interviewed, the different CEOs that are in your position at the exchange level, I think you're one of the few that has a banking background, and so I've asked this question multiple times. And to me, as you're moving in this direction, the question is, as we start seeing your exchanges develop into the banking space, right? You're starting to add like staking, and we see there's certain platforms that are starting to offer lending, where you can borrow against your asset. You're kind of stepping into that banking space. Do you see Binance kind of moving in that direction as well? That you obviously now, if we're putting our digital asset on Binance, you're acting as our bank. You still need to go through the bank registration and licensing and all of that. Do you see Binance moving in that direction?
You raise up a couple of funny things. True, I'm probably the only CEO in crypto that has Popeyes on Sundays. Second fact is I am one of the few with trading and bank institutional background, which I find is interesting that I have Wall Street experience that I'm able to translate into this new world of crypto. And CZ has background from working on Bloomberg's trade book. And both of us know what the, other world or the first world of assets was, which is Wall Street. And we don't want to build that. So we're not going to be building Wall Street 2.0. We're not going to be making something that smells and looks and feels just like it did, because that didn't work for us. It left a lot of people out of the their financial freedoms. It left a lot of people out on the sidelines that weren't able to get access to the resources that they needed. And it just didn't work for everybody. And so we feel very strongly about delivering the freedom of money to all in a way that is not entirely replicating a bank. There's certainly features that people are wanting, staking for one, different products that produce yields for people to be able to earn more on top of their holdings. Those are excellent things, but we're trying not to go down a path that looks just like a bank, because how's it working for everybody right now? I think there's probably a benefit to having the experience, having been working at a bank, is I know exactly when we start to form and smell too much like a bank, whereas other.
I lost you for a second there.
And they end up like Goldman Sachs. And it's kind of like, at least our team knows, we can get a sense of when we are shaping, providing things that are too bank-like. But we really want to be delivering this in a different form, in a different fashion, that if we can lower the barriers for people to access their funds, for people to become investors, for people to be able to train themselves in understanding how assets and markets work. These are incredible skills that shape people's understanding of economics forever. I had a great call with a guy that's just starting college at Penn State, and he walked into his Econ 101 class, which, by the way, was a hard class for me until like the gears started working and I started being like, oh, this is what economics is. He walked in day one and told his professor, I know everything about supply and demand. I own Bitcoin. And I just thought that was such a cool thing that he's coming into this class already like aware of these core macro concepts that define how the world works. And so for him to be able to say digital assets taught him these things that most people don't even learn, it's an incredible stepping stone that I think is going to change the way that people can take control of their future and have a peace of mind in what they do, that they're always going to have a way for them to be supported, for them to be able to grow their own capital, for them to be able to connect with others and have a meaningful conversation globally. That means maybe we all can get along a little bit better than we did. And that to me is kind of the special moments for someone in Korea to have a commonality with someone in Florida, to have a commonality with someone in Germany, and it all be based around this kind of universal acceptance of freedom of money and access for everyone.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, so some of the things that you just said, I mean, those are like real hot buttons for me, in terms of, the way I look at the digital asset space. And, Chip and I both got into, with the YouTube videos to really try to bring more information, more serious information to the community at large, try to educate, but one thing that I've seen, right from the beginning, like you're saying, people that have never invested before, and here's somebody going into college. How many high school kids out there invested in stocks? How many college kids have invested in stocks? How many, kids in graduate school invested in stocks? How many people coming out of grad school invested? It's unbelievable. And now with the digital asset space,
it takes $20.
To me, it's so impressive. Yeah, exactly. Open up to the masses, right? All over the world. Doesn't matter what country you're in, Latin America, South Africa, Africa, mid-Africa, Europe, England, Germany, Asia, China. It doesn't matter, where you are, anywhere in the world, you can invest in this platform. It's unbelievable. It's life-changing.
Yeah, and it can help people. I mean, I think about the folks that save up money from jobs and have to ship it over to their families. The ease of that is a tremendous indicator of how we could be able to see money move faster around the world. That was one of the pillars that brought me towards XRP, was the concept of not being able to, or not having to lose your money in the fees and that kind of friction process in order to send people money. If it could just be an equal value from what you're holding to what they're holding eventually, that to me is just transformative. So I do think it was super exciting. This guy, I called him on his 18th birthday and told him how to set up his BinanceUS account, because he reached out to me earlier on. And he's like, I'm 17, I'm so excited. And I was like, hey, you got to be 18 to be on our platform. He's like, put it in my calendar. And I put it in my calendar. And on his 18th birthday, we helped him set up his account. And he's been, transforming the Penn State arena around digital assets. And I think it's that excitement, seeing it at such a young age, it would have changed my career, would have changed my, personal outlook and how I could have had other hobbies or things, because I had this, already awareness and comfort that I'd have something to come back to, that digital assets would be able to be there if, a job fell through or something else didn't work out. That to me is a level of comfort that I think a lot of people really need.
Yeah, it's huge. And it is funny, the whole idea of the stock thing. So my daughter comes to me the other day, she wanted to buy an Apple stock. She has a friend, he's been day trading over the summer. He's 16, she's 16. And I'm like, this is a great idea. Take 20% of what you have, start moving it into something. But that was like the easiest thing to say as a parent. You're like, yes, that's not a problem. I don't have an issue with that. So another question that came to us, this kind of question came up, is Binance or BinanceUS an ODL exchange?
So it's not right now. It's got everything ready for it. So I think I've said it before, and it's sparked a lot of controversy or excitement around the group. But we've got everything there that you need in order to be an ODL exchange. You've got a $1 XRP on ramp. You've got the lowest fees in America in order to transact XRP. So you're not going to be losing it, having high friction costs between changing it from our platform to another one. And we've got connectivity into plenty of other global markets. So whether it's Binance Korea, whether it's Binance Indonesia, Binance Singapore, Binance UK, we've got those outlets and those ways to connect to other platforms. So whether you're an ODL approved or not, you can still move XRP the same way through our platform if you please. So you don't even have to wait for it. You could just still continue to use it. I think sometimes people get that ODL badge and forget it really just means letting people be able to move fiat into XRP to another platform.
Right.
And rapidly.
And kind of as exactly. And as a follow-up to that, so
we can all be our own ODLs.
Right, ODL. I just like it. You down with ODL? I'm down with it. So another one that came up from Crypto Nation News, he was asking, after working for Ripple, where do you see XRP in the future? And is XRP the superpower we think it is, or is it overhyped?
I'm not going to underhype or overhype anything, because we're all still so early in it. I mean, I had 2 years at Ripple, and the company's been around for almost 7 or 8 years by now. And so it's an incredible, we're all evolving in this space of where we're going to be headed and going. I think there are a couple of easy wins that I knew while I was inside of Ripple. I said, I love where it's headed. I love what the technology can be doing, but the infrastructure needed to be better. Like there needed to be better partners for ODL to make sense. And so I kind of took it on as mission critical for me to be able to build that infrastructure in America and make it make more sense for people. So whether it's kind of a sabbatical from that mission that I went over to join BinanceUS, I think it's just making sure that the rest of the industry is ready for the benefits that XRP can really provide.
Gotcha. Well said.
You can't really use it unless you've got really good, exchanges or on ramps in order to get and use it. So that's really an imperative part of just this entire maturity of the space.
So let's talk a little about regulatory clarity. So, the SEC came out about 2 years ago, and they declared that both Bitcoin and Ethereum, they were cool and they were good for everybody, but they kind of left everybody else in the digital assets. There's the Popeyes. Everybody else in a lurch, right? Every other digital asset's like, well, what about us? What do you think's going on there? And do you think the SEC is being very cautious? But what are your thoughts of what's happening there?
I think the SEC is being extremely cautious. I also think that they had so many things on their plate before cryptocurrencies popped up that for cryptocurrencies to cause such a roar was kind of an awakening for them, that they were going to have to pay attention to this. And so we've had great people like Hester Pierce now going on to her second term with the SEC, and she's done wonderful things to put forward measures like the safe harbor rule, to hoping to welcome more projects so that they don't feel that pressure or concern while they're just figuring things out. We've also seen adjustments to the accredited investors rulings. And so they're making steps in order to democratize finances, certainly. And I think it's really up to us to be able to show our maturity, execute as we need to, and be able to show the SEC that this is how digital assets are going to be stepping forward in the US. And we really would like their support from a regulatory side.
Yes, agree, 100%.
Well, I got to digest all that information. This is
I know
it is a lot.
I believe
a lot.
We have a good job, and we don't have an easy job either. So it's takes both sides to make sure that this is fit and safe for everyone. And I think we're all doing our part to make sure it is.
Yeah, awesome. I just want to say thank you to Dustin Deo for the support. Obviously, Crypto News Network, CNN over there giving us huge support. We did have another question as well that came through earlier on from Bill. And his question had to do with the Forex market and the crypto markets. And, do you see at some point you'll have Forex and crypto merging, or is there going to be some sort of a bridge to trade between Forex and crypto?
Great question, Bill. I thought it would already be here, which is kind of interesting. I thought it would already be kind of super integrated into the Bloomberg terminals in a way where if you were to pull up FX Go, you'd be able to see, your G10 currencies, your EM or emerging market currencies, and then your digital assets or cryptocurrencies right in the same line. And you would be conceptually thinking through, okay, do I want to move this through euros, or do I want to move this through euro, Bitcoin dollars, as ways of increasing either the pricing or improving the liquidity. And we've not seen that totally take off, but we have seen kind of in the shift where it wasn't going to be an identical framework as FX. We've seen it expand into the commodity space more similarly, as well as we've seen it just build onto its own. And I think that's something we've seen super exciting with like DeFi, decentralized finance, is this kind of growth onto its own, creating a market in itself. And I'm super excited for things like that to happen, because we would be still limited by how FX is operating. And I wouldn't be here if that's the case for digital assets, because most of FX is over the counter, OTC, not on the chain, but OTC. And exchanges don't really exist in an FX market. So those components make it a little bit different than how we're seeing digital assets moved here. And the biggest part about FX markets as well is it's largely held by, this core macro hedge fund players, as well as then those, primaries, liquidity providers like those banks, JP Morgan, like Deutsche Bank, et cetera, that are going to be housing the funds of those larger companies or larger clients. And so you have it in a real kind of centralized manner, where digital assets are so decentralized. Chip and I can exchange coins, and Jeff and I can exchange coins. And I know that just happens on a regular day through an order book and a matching engine like we've got on BinanceUS. So I think there's some level of the democratization of assets that digital assets are really great at. And then there's some of the order and, accuracy that I miss about the FX markets, and that kind of routine world of all of us communicating over Bloomberg IB, all of us using Black-Scholes to price our options, all of us using different risk parameters, but for the most part following the same news sources. We're hearing our information from anecdotally and using fundamental data to prove where the markets are headed next. Throw that all out the window when it comes to digital assets. You're getting your information from, Telegram, a Twitter after a dog's name. You're getting your information through any means and all means, and sometimes that's difficult to tell what's true, what's false, who's an impersonator, who's scamming you exactly. There'll be, be careful. There's a lot of me on Twitter. There's really only one of me that matters, but there's some copycats out there, and don't listen to them, just block them. But in the traditional space, you've got those reliance on monthly data sets that we don't have in crypto. And I think that's something that's colorful, but could be more useful for us to have to make better choices on these markets. But it's really hard to say that we're going to have like a non-farms payroll of digital assets that comes out first Friday of every month, and everyone's going to be waiting and then trade based on that. I just don't see that. Yeah, I just don't see that happening. Like, not in regular.
Hey, I had another question too. This one came from Crypto Eddie. She's a phenomenal YouTuber in the space, does amazing research, and she was basically wanted to know if you are planning on doing a financial XRP fund in the future. You know, SBI's launching the fund. You had Grayscale that launched the fund. Just curious, is Binance maybe thinking about going into that?
So in a fund, as in people could invest in it as like a vehicle, like what Grayscale has?
Exactly.
I think they do a great job. Just use theirs.
Gotcha.
I'm focused on a platform that lets people buy and sell digital assets quickly. So I'm going to stay focused on what we're doing until I'm happy with the product, and then we can go into the other realms. But focus is really key for us, and there's a lot of things that are exciting in the world, and there's some things that I just want to work and be reliable, and that's kind of where we're starting.
Yeah, even though it's established, but it is running like a startup. Like you guys hit the ground running with not where you really wanted the vision to be. So there was a lot of building. You've been adding a lot of new coins. Just out of curiosity, I'm wondering too if in this whole entire space, this blockchain space, you've got CZ as we know him. He seems like a really amazing guy. I mean, what's it like being with him? And because every time you see him, he always seems like he's on.
Yeah, he's just like he is on Twitter. So I had not met him before. Kind of beginning the process of learning how we could bring Binance into the US. But I had read his tweets, and then when he speaks, it comes off very much like the person that you read on Twitter. So I think there's something amazing about his authenticity that he shares with everyone in the community is the same CZ that he'll share in private. So that level of authenticity or thinking from a communal perspective, he's always putting our users first, or his users first too. And I hope to embody a lot of that authenticity and being kind of as honest as I am right now on a Sunday night in my BinanceUS hoodie, just with our users, because that's really what the level of discussion that we're hoping to have with them. You tell us the parts of your product that you want to see, and we'll go build it for you. And that's really how we're building this out, to make sure it's what exactly you want to see.
Gotcha. And just a quick follow up to that.
So I hear you when you say you want the Flare network. I hear you.
Right. A quick follow up to that. So you were on the BlockStars with David Schwartz, and so what is David Schwartz really a mad scientist? Because he's like one of these brilliant guys. What's it like working with him, and even Brad Garlinghouse? What's it like with those?
Yeah, I had an awesome. I think I'm probably one of the only people in the world to have this experience. I did 3 weeks in Asia with just David and myself, and I took him around my old haunts. I lived in Hong Kong for 4 years and traveled extensively around Asia during those times. And so David and I went on a tour of Hong Kong, and then we went to Korea and Japan. And I think the ultimate was he was the Slush Tokyo speaker. So we were doing a journey of meetups, and we got to Hong Kong. We hadn't had a meetup planned. I called up a couple people in Hong Kong, and by like 8 o'clock the next day, we had 150 people for a meetup in a space. And David was just like, "What happened, Coley?" He was like, "You told me that I needed to be like dressed and out of the hotel by 8 p.m. And then I had a 150 person meetup. What?" And I was like, this is how fast, having good relationships in Asia works, but also the fascination of people wanting to hear from him, and kind of how he's been able to impact a lot of people through building XRP and continually thinking about the space from just a level that few of us will ever be able to tap into. So he's a fascinating individual, and we had such a good time, even doing a couple of like the sightseeing things in Korea together. So I really do cherish his humor and his curiosity. He got to see a part of the world that really means a lot to me. So it was nice to be able to share with him kind of how important it was and why it made a lot of sense He was shocked at the amount of cash that I had to have in Hong Kong because it's not a credit card city. It's a cash or a Octopus card or, WeChat Pay. So it was really interesting for him to be able to start conceptualizing how the rest of the world used payments, even though he had built XRP kind of without seeing actually how useful it really would be on other sides of the world.
That's interesting. That's really interesting to get that observation. It also sounds like, for your background, you bring a lot to the table. Again, it kind of goes back to, we look at some of the others, we look at individuals like Alex Mashinsky, from Celsius, and we've had him on here a couple times, and we look at his history of building companies, amazing. So you look at what he could do with Celsius, he's been successful.
I lost Jeff.
Yeah, I think I lost him for a second too. So we're just sitting here. This thing happens when you do these things live sometimes. It's like he was right in the middle of he was just getting going there. Yeah, I don't know.
If he was going to be talking about what it takes to start something up, I take every chapter of my life as a critical next step to where we're headed. So I'm so grateful for every opportunity I've had.
Hey, I'm back. I'm back.
You're on a roll, Jeff. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was watching the rain outside, thunder, lightning, all sorts of great stuff going on.
Yeah,
out
there.
Did you guys make it through Laura? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't get.
We didn't even get any cool weather. I was hoping for a little bit of wind, a wind gust blew.
Typical Floridians were like, the eye of the storm wasn't even much. I was out there.
Right, exactly. Oh, the eye of the storm is the best part, right? You go
outside. Like, hey, everything's great. No, it's not.
I think that's how you know if you're a Floridian. If you're like, at the eye of the storm, we run outside. It's the only time you get.
I try to drag my dogs outside. The eye of the storm hit. I'm dragging them out. You guys got to go outside. You got more hours. I'm like, the hell with that. We're not going outside for you. Yeah, and I'm out there filming the back of the storm as it's coming in. I'm standing outside. Stuff's blowing past me. It's awesome.
Oh, there's something about us. Who knows? We'll never be the same.
No,
I think it helps with our navigating the volatility of the crypto assets. That's for sure. It seems like survival of the fittest comes from people who have seen the most, volatile events in their life, or kind of know where their own personal limits are. I think that the more secure you are with yourself, the better you can be understanding crypto. Because at the end of the day, you know who you are first, which is an important part.
Yeah. But how exciting to have this new asset class. I mean, it's just like it pops out of nowhere. Speaking of that, I was just curious to get your take on has your opinion shifted or changed since Bitcoin from its inception till now? It's been out for 11 years. Has anything shifted for you in that realm?
Are you kidding me? A lot. Wow. I mean, when I first heard of Bitcoin, I came in with such a sharp FX angle. I was like, there's no way they could compete with FX right now. Like, show me its speed, show me its cost of transaction, show me its liquidity, show me its ability to, beat a T+2 settlement time, show me its ability to be accessed from anywhere without having, these high barriers to entry or need of a prime broker, blah, blah, blah. Like, really good questions to ask. And Bitcoin failed all of them. And so I was like, next, this isn't good enough, blah, blah, blah. And then when I asked those same questions to Miguel Villas at XRP when he was interviewing me, and he kind of confirmed all of the steps that they were doing in order to be competitive with foreign exchange. And I kind of said, oh, okay, well, if it can do what it says it's going to do, then this could be really meaningful. And then when I hear this from other groups or listening to kind of how Ethereum is going to be plugged in and play in things, I go, oh, okay, I see. This isn't just competing against the old regime of how money moved around the world through foreign currencies or, stores of value in gold. This is just pivoting how we're even able to manipulate what it is, and not manipulate with a bad M, but manipulate like Play-Doh, being able to mold it into things that we really need in our lives that bills and coins wouldn't do for us. And so that's really where I see the excitement of it. And yes, we are going to have some things that speed up in order to make sense. Corporates aren't going to become, basing their balance sheets in something that's insanely volatile, nor are they going to be basing their balance sheets in something that doesn't earn anything. I think about all the corporate treasuries out there that have, their funds in these non-bearing interest accounts. Yeah, that's what the interest rates at zero will do to you. You're not going to be able to stay competitive and grow your balance sheet. Whereas you see large corporates now stepping into having Bitcoin as part of their treasury, and they're having an outsized return compared to their peers. So I think there is something really serious about this new space, which is exciting. People are taking that next step. But it definitely still had to kind of grow up a little bit in order for people to take a conscious eye at it. And it's fun to be part of the grow up part of it. It's fun to be part of the, hey, let's be real industry guys, keep the Lambos at home, focus on what we can be delivering for people, execute on the stuff that we really want to be delivering on, bring good people into this business, support teams that have strong leaders behind them. There are some definite steps that we need to be taking, but I'm so excited for where crypto's headed. And one of the biggest things that's under discussed is crypto has kept me so busy for the last 3 solid years. So busy, like fully occupied my mind. That is a gift in itself. For something to keep me this focused, it's a joy. So for anyone out there that's like searching for what they need to be, doing in life, or can't figure out where they belong or what they fit or what would make sense, try looking up digital assets. You'll find at least something that can, be passion for you. You'll find kernels that you never even knew existed, and there's boundless amounts of information for you to learn from. So I do think in that essence, it's giving people an outlet where they can spend more time, educate themselves, and in reward, take care of their own futures.
Right. Hey, so a question kind of goes back to into Binance and wallets and security and the technical aspect of it. So we had a couple of questions leading towards the security part of it. And one of them was more technically, and this comes from a viewer over in Europe. And he was asking about the wallets between Binance and BinanceUS, if they're sharing the same wallets, or the funds kept separately. How exactly does that work? And then he kind of takes it a step further and asks if there ever was a security breach of some sort. He says, does one wallet participate in covering the other? Or
BinanceUS operates entirely independently to Binance.com. We're able to license some of the technology from Binance Global as a global partner of ours, but our operations are entirely independent, as well as we maintain security measures that make sure that our users are protected independently from any other activity that takes place on the other platforms. So I'll leave it at that. There's some benefits. There's some benefits to us not sharing that information as a measure of security as well.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, and then when it comes to like FDIC, where do you see that going in this space right now? Because as people put their digital assets in with banks, it's 250K max that's covered through FDIC. Do you see that as being important, relevant, not relevant in the crypto space?
Yeah, we have all of our dollar deposits that are on BinanceUS are FDIC insured up to that $250,000 mark, as you mentioned. So it's important for us to maintain that level of insurance, at least from the dollar perspective. From the crypto perspective, that doesn't exist yet. So that's something that's really exciting with the OCC offering the ability for banks to be able to custody digital assets, as potentially they could be held under that insurance, blanket or umbrella to some extent, or there would be an additional way for, FDIC insurance or something for digital assets specifically. But it is kind of a risk that people need to be aware of when they are leaving their coins on a platform. At the same time, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night knowing that a user of ours is not going to be able to get the coins that they had on our platform. So, in both elements, we're going to be putting our users first and doing the right thing rather than just doing, what people might be fearful of or have an experience at another platform. Well said.
That's all. I think everybody feels the same way too. It is as much as we've gone like the last. If you figure Bitcoin's been around 11 years, we just got started like 30 seconds ago, really, right? I mean, it's sort of a weird sort of a process. You're like, yeah, we've been at it 11 years or 30 seconds ago. So, when you brought up earlier in the conversation about how new this is, where do you see what's your take on it on the next 3 to 5 years? Like, do you think like regulatory clarity is coming? Where do you see the crypto space shifting, and especially coming from the perspective of running a very a sizable, growing exchange? Where do you see that going?
I think 3 to 5 is a really short time frame to look in front of us.
10 years?
Yeah,
20?
I'm looking at this more at a 20 to 25 year viewpoint of where I think I want to be continuing to stay involved in this space. I'm not looking out 3 to 5 years and saying, cool, we'll be done by then. Right. When I joined Morgan Stanley, I think like within the first 2 months, we celebrated its 75th birthday. And so I'm kind of standing there like, oh my God, I'm going to start my career in something that is so old and well matured. I will have such a little impact on how this company is run one day. I will have so much baggage of 75 years to change the route or redefine how they're going to be doing business. I better just keep my head down and work. And in crypto, the counter is we're 10 years in. I'm a year into being an infrastructure provider. I'm 3 years into being a professional in this space. And I've been able to have such an outsized impact on defining who, where, what, and how we're going to be doing this. And I think that's something that more people need to realize and wake up to and say, you have a chance at redefining how digital assets are going to be impacting our lives by getting involved in it. And so in the next 3 to 5 years, I see way more people taking careers in digital assets. I see a significant amount more Americans picking up digital assets. I think the current numbers are around 15%. And every time I get a new user, I think I'm hopefully adding to that percentage. So it's an exciting thing to be able to bring more people into it because now they say, oh, if she can do it, I could do it. And I'm cool with that. I hope that's people's reaction because it isn't that difficult. You just need to be educated on this before you take your next step in. And you need to realize it's not that scary once you get into it. You just have to know what it is that you're getting into. So next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see an outsized amount of movement into it. You're going to see a younger population have interest in this, which is going to shift actually how our finances have looked for a long time, because typically it was after when you were looking at your finances when you took your first jobs. That's about 10 years too late. Some would say 20, but let the 10-year-olds just do what 10-year-olds do. Don't start getting too into the weeds. But I see a shift especially in this time, everyone that was planning on going to college or university, that's been turned on its head. And so they're looking at things of different ways for them to take control of their careers, take control of their own well-being, take control of their finances. They may be out of the house, but they might not be going into the typical path of 4 years at a first job, and this is what your first job looks like. No, you've got to be living either at home or you've got to be living on your own, and people are going to start refocusing on their finances. So I see a shift to a younger demographic with digital assets, as well as added more voices coming into the space, which I'm so excited about.
So what I'm hearing here is that in 10 years, when my son is when he goes into college or starts a business or whatever he does, and he looks into the history books of finance and goes back, and your name is going to be there with, as we develop this space, and you're going to be a key player in the development of this space.
I hope I'm lost in a name of millions. I hope are millions of people that are going to be making this change in finance for us all. That is the point of it. It is available and free for everyone to take access in digital assets, which I think is more important than having one name define the change. But I'll be encouraging.
One of the leaders, let's put it that way. One of the leaders, a pioneer. You're going to be one of the pioneers, the lead pioneers of the space.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
I think I played Calamity Jane in the 4th grade play, so maybe that's where I learned my experience to buck the trend and pioneer on.
Well, that's good trivia right there, in case somebody wants to bring that up in a tweet in about a month or something like that. You never know, right?
Like Calamity Jane, I have this big hat.
Well, one of the things for Jeff and I, we always look at stats. Like you look at this is the most, I think, frustrating thing for us is we look at our stats and it always puts between male and female, and it says your audience is 100% male. I'm like, I know that's not true. I know there are a lot of women who are in, there's so many, and it's like, it's almost like, the tube looks at it like goes, well, we don't know. We really don't know. But I'm like, it's not 100%.
It might be. It's 8 o'clock on a Sunday. People are getting ready for the next week. They've just fed their whole families. They're, tucking in, ready to watch Lovecraft Country. I think we've always got to make sure that we're catering our messages to audiences that are available when they are. But I'll be sure to share this with a lot more women so they do watch it.
That's key.
Right now.
Well, that's what's great to see. Women in crypto, it's like a really phenomenal, event. Not only just like in investing in it, but women. I don't know. It's just me, but and my wife will back this up. But women are pretty smart, usually smarter than men, especially when it sometimes comes to financing part of it, and they really ought to be a little bit more involved, right? There you
Kelly,
go.
I remember
that. There you go, right there. You remember that?
Because I was like, is this Kelly Slater? And I was like, no, it's Kelly Slater.
By the way, I did have a chance. I did have a dinner with Kelly Slater at one point. Yeah,
really?
And actually up here in Delray Beach, Florida. Yeah, a friend of mine. Yeah, so a friend of mine invited me. She said, hey, a friend of mine's coming into town. Do you want to go out to dinner? And I'm like, I don't really know. And she's like, I'm like, can you tell me who it is? She goes, well, it's kind of like a high profile person. I'm like, who is it? I'm like, Kelly Slater. I'm there. And it was weird because we kind of had this big friend table, and I was sitting across from him, and I was just nonstop fanboying all over the place, going like, like you're the greatest. It was just really cool. You know what I mean? It's like, anyway, but
We've all done that. I'm such a big fanboy of so many athletes out there, and I've had a really cool chance to be able to talk to a handful of them about kind of their own finances. We run something called Financial Fitness, which was my way of like trying to meet athletes that actually were curious about crypto, because the two kind of overlap in ways that I think can be productive for people to say like, oh, well, if a 3-time gold medalist in soccer also cares about buying crypto on her own, maybe I should. It's been really cool, but I totally like freeze up on camera and I'm just like, this is so cool. So I would do the same with Kelly Slater, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was really cool. It talked about music, talked about everything, surfing, the whole thing growing up. And then there was like a moment there, like it was one of these weird long dinners. And then there was a moment where I totally forgot who he was, just having a conversation with anybody. But, it's like at some point you're like, yeah, it's okay. It's a human being. It's somebody else, But who was somebody that you would like to meet? Who's somebody that oh
God, there's so many people that I don't know, this must have been a Florida thing. You had to like become someone for a wax museum every like 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade.
Yeah.
Who knows? And my collection or the people that I chose in elementary school were Jane Goodall, Andrew Carnegie, that was a funny costume, and Madeline Albright. And I would have a dinner with those 3 any day. Tell me about how it is to analyze chimps in the wild. Tell me how it is to conduct global policy. And tell me how it was to be kind of one of the first early millionaires of the time, leading the steel and railroad world. So whether those 3 things swirled into one make who I am or not, it's probably a little bit of influence there.
That's really impressive. I like to hear that. I mean, you definitely, again, you talk about the pioneering aspect of it, and
yeah, I definitely think sometimes I'm in the jungle too. Yeah, I'm going, okay, I'm assessing human behavior right now, picking the nits out of my hair, kind of mimicking the chimp behavior that Jane Goodall witnessed in the wild, and then trying to translate that into who we see on crypto Twitter, but they'll be okay.
That's the truth. When I watched couple documentaries about it, what was amazing and fascinating to me was when they actually pulled away from the coast, you saw that everything was barren except for this one area that was populated by trees. Like, had I never seen that documentary, I would never have known that. My whole concept was, it's just lush jungles for as far as you could travel. And I was like, what? It's just like there was that one area. It was really strange. And it must have been fun locking your kid in a cage so that the chimps didn't actually get to them. I might have been a weird experience growing up. Might have to kind of double back on that conversation.
Exactly.
But.
Yeah, no, there's probably folks locking their kids up so they don't go and touch the buy and sell buttons on their crypto platforms, all their screens set up, or, don't look at me. I'm buying on Uniswap,
It happens. It can happen at any time.
It's a wonderful world. And I think it's great that we have the platform like you guys to be able to educate people I think that's first and foremost the easiest way to make it less intimidating, which if something's intimidating, you don't want to be involved in it, and therefore you're never going to look at it. So if we can help lower those barriers to entry, lower that kind of intimidation level that gets people, sweaty, nervous, afraid to talk about money, to talk about investing, to talk about digital assets, they're extremely daunting when you think about it. And then when you unpack it, you kind of go, okay, I think I can buy another one. Yeah,
yes.
this is easy. So that's really our goal, is to make it something that you can get behind and instead of fearing from afar.
Got it. Yeah. So I want to be conscious of your time, because this is supposed to be your chill day, but you are so dedicated to your craft that you are willing to come on with us on the live stream.
I'm chilling with the on the chain community.
I'm 8 minutes late to finishing up Lovecraft Country, so it's fine.
Yeah, so
I get one show on Sunday nights to watch, and not do that while I approve the expenses of my employees. So
well done. So yeah, I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I don't know if there's any closing words before we get out of here, but I wanted to say thank you so much, Jeff, and I really appreciate you coming on and dropping knowledge and with our entire community here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear from your community. Definitely, I'll leave you guys with shout when you're in doubt, and we'll come help you understand our platform. We'll help you go through your verification process. We're eager to hear what you want to see built, and also have just a little bit of patience with us, because we are still growing into new states, more states, and new products and new features. So we're really excited. Again, this is kind of just the beginning. We're not even a year old, so we're super excited to see what's in store, and glad you guys are a part of it. Feel free to follow us at BinanceUS on Twitter. That's probably our loudest channel, or I'm Crypto Coley on Twitter. Thanks.
Outstanding. We put the links in the description below, so we're all set with that. And I also want to give a big shout out to everybody that came here and spent the evening with us. Thank you to Catherine Coley for coming here, taking your Sunday evening with us, missing your show.
No. It's just started.
It just started. Okay, great. So we want to make sure you see it.
This is the show. This is the show you want to watch.
This is definitely the show you want to watch. So it was definitely worthwhile that you missed some of your show. And I want to say thank you to Crypto News Network for the support. I want to say thank you to Notorious XRP for support. And then there was one other from Dustin Deo for tonight.
Deo.
We said it.
Whoa, hang on. We got singing Coley here. That's great, man. We'll have to pick up that on the future.
Justin Deo. Yeah. Great name. That's
an awesome name right there. So do me a favor, hang out 1 second before we're gonna just hit the outro here. But thank you once again for coming on. And this is Chip, this is Jeff, and this is, as you said, Coley, Catherine Coley from BinanceUS, and we are out of here. We'll see you on the next one.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.